industry. This is a really captivating panel. It should enlighten and illuminate you to a lot of different aspects. The goal is to provide valuable insights into the challenges, opportunities, and emerging trends that shape the future of our industry, and emerging is the word. But without much further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Leo. Please, big round of applause for our first panel of FestForums 2024.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it. Likewise. Well, here we are. I just wanted to a quick intro for myself. My name is Leo Lavoro. Most recently served as VP of Public Relations and Communications for BMG US, where I looked after such artists as Lenny Kravitz, Kylie Minogue, Anais Mitchell. The list goes on and on. But most importantly, I wanted to invite all of you to get the most out of this weekend. It's a fantastic conference that Lori Kirby and her fantastic team have put together, and I'm honored to be here as moderator of the first panel, State of the Industry. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists here, beginning with Benjamin Oberman to my left. Benjamin, President CEO of MouseTrap Films and Film Festival Flicks. Benjamin is an innovator and leader in the virtual event industry. As the founder and CEO of Film Festival Flicks and Guild Screeners, Benjamin's company provides the streaming technology services and support empowering festivals and special events to reach a global audience. Please hold your applause until we're over here. Bruce Floor, Chief Strategy Officer of Red Light Management, partner of 100X, hospitality partner of ATO Records, and partner of FEMI Talent. Bruce began his career at RCA Records as head of alternative promotion, where he guided the careers of numerous artists. He then moved into a dual A&R marketing position at RCA, where he signed 2 iconic rock bands. Maybe you've heard of Dave Matthews Band and Foo Fighters. In the early 2000s, Bruce switched gears and joined Corn Capshaw and Dave Matthews Band at Red Light Management and ATO Records, with a robust roster that includes Alabama Shakes, The Strokes, Luke Bryan, and Brandy Carlisle, to name a few. He's also a founding partner in a music media company, Greenlight Media Marketing. The company's mission is to put together an experience that creates a culture between brands and music.
There's more.
There's more. But wait, there's more. And next we've got John Boyle, Chief Content Officer, most recent role as Global Chief Content Officer at Official ASM Global. John also served as President for Live Nation Entertainment Japan, and also has held positions at Chief Financial Officer and Chief Growth Officer at Insomniac Events. Before joining Insomniac, John was the CEO, owner of the Van Group, and was a producer of owner of the Snowcore Tour. Then we have Morgan Margolis, CEO of Knitting Factory Entertainment. Morgan joined Knitting Factory Entertainment in 2000, and for the past 14 years has helmed the company as its CEO. KFE holds and has held numerous promoter contracts, and its national touring and promotions arm book national acts across multiple states, including, but not limited to, Outlaw Field in Idaho, Big Sky Brewery Amphitheater in Montana, and Wine Country Amp in Walla Walla, Washington, safely serving more than 200,000 fans outdoors annually. And last but certainly not least, we have Serena Flowers. Serena is the owner of the Festival General Store. As owner of the Festival General Store, which you can find the pop-up right outside the doors here, Serena has served over 80 plus music festivals from coast to coast over a 20-year period. With skills, experience, and knowledge gathered from the festival world, her curated Festi kits will help BOH production prepare their workers and enhance artist relations by offering amenities that will overall improve workers' longevity and help add a special experience for festival guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our esteemed panelists. Great, let's dig in, shall we? First question, this is more slanted towards the music side. In recent news story published online, it appears the appetite for live music from independent artists is strong. Over 60% of the Coachella bill strong. clearly making up most of the majority of artists playing the festival. Do you all see this trend spilling over into other music festivals, and is this the future of talent billing? Please take a microphone. Anyone?
Repeat that again. Somebody else.
Sure. It appears the appetite for live music from independent artists is strong, over 60% of the Coachella bill strong, clearly making up the majority of artists playing the festival. Do you see this trend spilling over into other music festivals, and is this the future of talent billing?
Well, as an artist manager, I sure hope so, because there's only so many headliners that go around. I do know the conversations that I've had with many festival buyers. They are very encouraged that the excitement that they're getting from their announcements are coming from the second, third, and fourth lines on the poster as opposed to the headliners. That bodes well for the growth of the next generation of headliners, which we all believe we're running out of. And I think some festivals are finding that to be difficult. But also the fact that the audience is looking at festivals as a discovery point. And I think that that's crucial. For me as a manager, I'm looking for festivals that I know not only can cover a guarantee, but I can possibly break the artist out of that festival.
I mean, Coachella is a bit of an anomaly in this. Although the mega festivals do this well. They make sure that they program a lot of young acts, and they take pride in the discovery process and the breaking process. I think the big point is a lot of the we're losing headliners, and that's maybe more of a concern, and yet the opportunity for artists to come up. But we're definitely struggling for headliners out there. Many, maybe most festival headliners are choosing to go do the stadium shows just on their own. And we are certainly seeing that this year in particular.
I would reiterate what they said, but as an independent promoter, we found, so Desert Days example, which is one of our festivals, we used to reverse book, and then we booked support first. And I would say 90% of our crowd that came there was all about the independent artist, but we found that we were burning so much of our budget on support that we'd suddenly be hurt by the time we were trying to book our main headliner. And then we've also found that we want to break, I don't want to go to the negative side, we want to break independent artists all the time, but we find, and I'm not only a promoter of festivals, we do music venues, brick and mortar, and it's hard for us as a promoter, an act, to say that we spend 10 grand on, that's an independent artist in a venue, suddenly wants 50,000, sorry managers, when you get to the festival side. So it becomes this moving around nonstop, what works for the festival, and we still need to have those top tier headliners, but then if you're talking SoCal, it's heavily saturated, and we're all, like right now, if you have a festival that's going towards the end of the year, October, those acts are gone. We're all fighting for the same, 50 acts if we're lucky, in all different genres. So, and Coachella is a whole other animal.
And just to add to that, I don't book festivals for a living. I take their money for a living. But I'm finding, in my opinion, that if this is going to be a trend, that for me, less is more then. Because I think there's a tendency to fill the poster up because you want a lot of names. But if you're doing a lot of independent artists and we're trying to grow that side of the business, I'd rather give the customer, the fan, a chance to actually explore more and see more music at that level than just cram the stages full of stuff and because it looks good because you're filling out lines on a paper.
Well, thanks for that insight, Bruce. I really appreciate that, and the rest of you as well. Since we're with you, Bruce, I've got an add-on question for you. In your opinion, based on the current state of affairs, what does it take to get on the radar of the industry to attract talent for someone looking to launch a boutique festival?
Oh, that's a great question. How many people are in the music festival business out here? Okay, so you guys all move over here and I'll just talk to this side of the room. The rest of you could give a shit what I'm about to say. So to get on the radar, and I'm fortunately involved in a new boutique festival. I think some of the guys are here, Shebang Festival in San Luis Obispo. Give it up for Shebang. I think that this is a real challenge for new festivals to get on the industry's radar, and I think you have to literally make an effort to sit in front of the people you're trying to attract and show them why they should come play your festival. And you go, well, how do I do that? If I was going to start a new music festival, the first thing I would do is I would lay out my wish list of artists, who I want to book, and I would take meetings with those managers, and ideally those artists. And I would go and I would use passion as my first play, and not lead with a check. The check will come, right? If you have a successful festival, it just evolves. But sit in front of that manager and say, I want your artist to be part of this festival because this is what my audience is looking for, this is the DNA of what the festival is going to be, and your artist fits that perfectly. If you're having that conversation, I don't know any manager that wouldn't lean in and go tell me more. Does that answer that question?
So come at them with passion and look at a curation.
With a specific point of view, not just we're starting an EDM festival and we love your, we want EDM bands. It's like, we're starting an EDM festival that's going to talk to this consumer in this environment with this kind of setting. Remember, location is also important. But if you're going to get on the radar of the business, sending out offers, you're already screwed. If I see numbers first, all I'm worried about is jacking the number up, especially if you're brand new, right? Because you have to prove yourself. You really want to look for partners. And that's another thing I'd like to add. For new festivals, if you can, right, look for an artist that's in your geographical location or somebody that's important in your sphere, and maybe start with that conversation. Hey, artist and manager, we want to build a festival. Would you like to partner with us? We had this recent success in Ocean's Calling with our friends at C3 and a band that I manage called OAR. And they're from Maryland, and they wanted to start a festival. Well, we don't have enough juice to do our own festival, but partnering with someone like C3, it gave us the ability to curate, it gave us an anchor every year, and it turned into a success. But it was started with the artist vision and the artist partnership.
It's one thing that you were kind of touching on, Bruce, is if you're a startup festival, be prepared to pay 100% down. Like, not many real managers or real agents are going to say, oh, I'll take a 10% deposit or a 50% deposit. Like, the trail of startups that never paid their bills is long and bloody, and the only other point I would say, I'd almost say it from the flip side, from the artist side, but it also goes to like a startup festival side, is relationships matter and the team matters. So if you're an artist, like, you better have a manager that has some credibility, because otherwise, whether it's Coachella or whether it's the new guys in San Luis, they're probably not going to give you a shot. Like, I don't think people are really booking their festivals off of TikTok. I don't. But maybe I'm wrong and old. I don't know.
Thanks, John.
And not to dominate the dialogue, but the other thing I would say, I think that's what this conference is for. Forgive me, I'm new. This is the first time I've been here, and I love it. Nice to see everybody. Is the partnership that can happen in these rooms, right? When you guys all look at, like, okay, well, I'm on this weekend, and you're on that weekend, and you're 300 miles from here. Why don't we go in together, right? Because routing is just as important. So you're not competing with anybody in this room, ideally. So if you have a conversation about, hey, what if we all go in and make a 4-festival offer together, you might end up raising your talent, getting more for your money.
Spending less per show.
Yeah, and also sharing pain and suffering and learning curves.
Strength in numbers. And also using those strengths that you have as a regional act that's successful in that market, and getting radio and press and all of that you've got going on with that independent artist. I think that's really smart. I just want to switch over from it to Serena. Hi, Serena.
Hello.
With your depth of experience as owner of Festival General Store, as the demand for amenities and services increases at festivals, comfort and safety of festival goers is at the forefront of concern. You being the literal boots on the ground, what are you seeing out there now, and what suggestions and best practices do you have for our audience?
Great question. Well, I've been doing festivals for 25 years, and I have to say, the kids, I can say they're kids because I'm in my 50s, so let's just call them kids. They're struggling out there. They're young, They're on their phones. They're not used to being outside for 10 hours a day plus for 3 days, tenting. I mean, we're really lucky to go in a trailer with air conditioning. We go to catering. We're watching, the show streaming. And I just want you guys to understand that they are on the fields and they are struggling. So I really suggest that you have festival amenities, lockers, lost and found, a general store. That's what I run. I just want everyone to remember that you guys are creating a lifetime memory for these kids. And it's such a bummer when they go to a show and they can't handle it. I mean, I don't care if it's a Band-Aid because they have a blister or they're dehydrated. I just want you guys to understand that it's our job to make sure that they're okay. And we're at the forefront of giving them amenities now. When I was going to festivals, it was like, who cares? You just kept running. Now the kids are a little different, so.
At our festivals, everybody gets a trophy and a hug.
I can't follow that. Unless you want a hug. I wanted to add we were talking about it before. I mean, I don't care. We're on the festival side, but I'll talk about it's venues, festivals, bars, restaurants, all of it. The primary thing is drinking water, because you're running these spreadsheets. You're looking at who you should book. You're trying to do all that, and suddenly you don't have enough water. You don't have enough water fountains, bathrooms, porta potties. Those are the things that when I'm on the ground, at all these things, is that you go in there and I'm like, this is the most disgusting porta potty I've ever seen in my life. And you got 3 days of that. And make sure that your cleanup crew is fantastic. And the other big one is make sure you go talk to your security. I go stand at the front gates and I stand at the front of our venues and I go, stop a minute. Chill out with people. Talk to them. And I talk about this in our bars and restaurants too. I have this mantra. I'm always like, if you go to an incredible restaurant and the food's great, but the service sucks, you're not coming back. If you go to an okay place, the service is great, you're going to go back. So you have to look at every single piece of this and make sure it works. And I don't want to get into the deep sides of security and working through all of it, but you got to make sure everybody's comfortable, feels good, and make sure you have a safe space, emergency. But I mean, that's across every line. So I'm always working through all those pieces.
So for a long time, I ran a little festival called Electric Daisy Carnival. 140,000 people a night, from sundown to sunup in Vegas. And we were in the business, it's to both your points, it's all about health and safety. And we innovated technologies to ensure health and safety. We all know what's going on at EDC. So what the responsibility you have, and even whatever festival you're doing, little, big, boutique, EDM, you do have a responsibility to the customer. And yes, the kids do expect things differently, but I mean, at the end of the day, health and safety is paramount. And look at Insomniac and EDC, like we set the standard that I hope other people have been following to ensure that if a kid goes down, you're there within 30 seconds, take care of them, and make sure that they don't go down for good.
John, since we're with you, why don't we kick it over to another fresh question? With your vast experience working for the largest venue management company in the world, could you please share with the room what you're seeing in regards to one-day stadium festivals across the network?
Yeah, so I helped launch Warped Tour. I had Snowcore. I've been in the middle of festivals, ran Insomniac EDC, running ASM Global, which is the largest venue management company in the world, 350 stadiums, arenas, theaters, convention centers around the planet. What we are seeing very, very quickly, and I just left the company a month ago, cashed out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. So right now I'm doing fuck all. But what we're definitely seeing a proliferation of is one-day events. Okay, so if you look at what Golden Voice is doing out at the Rose Bowl, right, with their one-day festivals, with all sorts of 80s acts or whatever. But even on a touring side, Stevie Nicks and Billy Joel, Def Leppard, Motley Crue. This summer, Def Leppard, Journey, Cheap Trick, Heart. Like, I think what we're experiencing, and this kind of goes back to your point a little bit, Serena, is like the economics of this are getting difficult for young people to afford to go to a 3-day show. You know, I mean, right now at Coachella, and Paul T's like my best friend, but it's like at Coachella, it's $1,200 a night to get a hotel, like $1,200 a night, right? So it's so much easier to fly into Chicago to go to Soldier Field, tailgate for a couple of hours, then go see 6 hours of fucking ubiquitous hits, party your balls off, go to your hotel room, and go home. It's like a fraction of the cost. It makes, by the way, who invented this? I'm going to ask you, who invented this one-day stadium thing?
I don't know.
Bill Graham. Day on the Green.
Oh, right.
Back in the 70s.
Wait, how old do you think I am?
He's actually my older brother, and we have the same stylist.
Jesus. I'm old and tired.
Anyway, the one-day thing is absolutely an opportunity. I think you can tour it, and then you can break off artists kind of like in markets in between these. But you know, it's definitely there. I mean, Journey, Def Leppard, Cheap Trick, Heart, like that's a case of 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 8.
Yeah, but also on that, the one-day thing, we're having conversations like, if you're going to build a stage and only use it for one day, find somebody to use it on the
Back
other
to back.
day, right? You got to amortize that cost. So
At
there's-
Allegiant Stadium, we did Garth Brooks one night and Metallica the next night, and it was the same stage.
Speaking of staging, Bruce, one sidebar conversation that you and I were talking about was going back to that question about curation and being smart about how you're coming to the table to attract talent, right? In your
Hey,
mind,
Janine. Hi.
hi Janine. In your opinion, I mean, as far as ideas, I mean, we all know big production versus small production, but what things could you kind of suggest to the people here that maybe stand out when it comes to production, like as far as being prepared, walking into the room and saying, hey, this is what we're bringing to the table, or we can make sure that we're going to put a special package together for your artists to make them feel and separate this from the group?
Yeah, I think, I'm sure all of you take a lot of pride in your actual aesthetic of your festival, right? Why does your field or space feel any different than somebody else's? And I think that and going back to your part about the kids, right? They're looking for the entire experience. So the minute you walk through those gates, Bonnaroo, which we were involved in from the very beginning, that was all about the artist and building a city and, how could camping be effective? And I remember hiring folks on horseback, and we put them in red Mountie suits, even though they were just locals on horses. But we wanted the sense that there was more security around there walking around, and it just kind of tempered everything down. The other thing I think you're alluding to is what we discussed, is when you're booking talent on your festival, and it's an important act, or you're trying to break that band, you really believe, it's not out of the question for you to ask for a certain show. Ask for the show that you know will work for your audience. Ask for a hit-driven set, right? Ask for, maybe they have a couple of configurations. Well, if I'm paying you X amount of dollars, can you bring the horns with you too? So that you're getting what you're paying for, and you can take pride in the fact that, yeah, I made that happen. That show worked. A lot of times, as a manager, we're literally looking on how do we get through the tour and just break even. We're not thinking about the 4 o'clock set at your festival in front of 7,000 people all the time. You are. So if you're writing a check, ask for get what you pay for.
Make them play hits, too. I was at Tool last night. I mean, they're ridiculously good. They played one song that I knew, and I'm a fan. That's not a good thing. So, even if you're getting a small band and they had a great first record, Lit, Alien Ant Farm, make them play the fucking record.
Yeah, I mean, you're curating.
He signed Lit, by the way.
I did. That's how old I am. You're curating.
I
There's
signed
no
Ant
reason
Farm.
why you shouldn't have, to a certain extent, a say in what you're getting.
Thank you, gentlemen. Switching over to Benjamin. How you doing? I need a microphone.
Oh, shit.
I'm good, thanks. Benjamin, as a leader in the virtual event space and president, CEO of MouseTrap Films and Film Festival Flicks, in a post-pandemic world, what challenges are you currently experiencing firsthand or anticipating down the road when it comes to streaming live events? And, in your opinion, what are the key benefits of continuing to use the digital medium to offer live experiences online, either in place of or to enhance the live in-person experience?
Good question. So the biggest challenge we're facing is that everybody in this room and everybody that we deal with for the most part, you're live event producers. So the virtual world is very invisible, it's very unknown, and thus it's very scary. And so coming out of the pandemic where people didn't necessarily choose to go into a streaming world, but were forced to, there are also, for the most part, a lot of groups, not everyone, but there's a lot of abandonment of it. And that would kind of be like back in the 80s if the movie studios had said, thank God we've got theatrical, we don't need this home video business. People are missing out. One of the big mistakes we saw during the pandemic, whether it was a music festival, a film festival, an individual concert, an individual artist, was they thought that they were one and the same, that streaming was just a portal into your live event. And it's not, it's its own unique beast. And when it's done correctly, it actually can offer deeper engagement for your core fans. It can allow an expansion of fans. It can allow more analytics, possibilities for growth, increase in revenue, accessibility. All those things come, but it takes thought because it's its own special thing. Some of it's windowing, some of it we were talking upstairs, like especially in the music world. It's discussing like all those natures like with your artists of how are they going to get paid. Because they're not actually against streaming, they're just against not being paid and you exploiting it further. So there's a lot of components that go into it. And nothing says that the virtual has to happen at the same time as the physical. Kind of an example of that, we worked with a small tour in the UK. They did 40 cities live. Working together, we were able to geo-block out the UK. So during that first window, if you were in the UK, you had to go to a live event, which drove more engagement there. But we were able to help them grow into 2,000 cities across 51 countries virtually at that same time by all those people who couldn't physically attend. And then with subsequent windows, we gave the opportunity for people who were at that core in the UK to watch again because maybe they forgot, but more importantly, they had a chance then to go share it with everybody who didn't know about it in that first window. And it ranged from people watching alone to people inviting 6 friends and having a party in their house to public venues like bars and gyms and other places licensing the opportunity to have 100 people come together and watch it in unity. In the virtual space, you also have your analytics and dashboards where you own your own audience. You know who each and every single person is, which means that you can engage with them ongoing throughout the year at a different level. And when it comes time for like your next concert, your next album, you can email them. You don't have to go back and pay for that advertising from scratch. So you can amortize the cost of what it took to get that person and then start to grow that audience and turn your core audience into your lead ambassadors that are going to help you grow at a greater level. So moving forward, my best advice is think of it as a component that's not there to cannibalize or to compete, but actually to enhance and help you grow, because it's just another way to consume what it is you're doing in a different way. And hopefully, if you do it right, the next year, it'll actually help your physical event grow larger as well.
But hey, isn't one of the key things you just said licensing? Like, because if it's not live, then all of a sudden you're dealing with copyright and record masters and publishing. Like live, you can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
Once you it's like once you park this and then rebroadcast it, all of a sudden everybody has their hands out.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's like if I was talking with Bruce, it would be that discussion of here's the windows of how we're doing it. It's not like this is going to be out on YouTube forever. It's like it may be available for 24 hours on this date. It may be here. Here's going to be the access so you can see what's happening. Here's how the revenue is going to be split at the point of sale. And so then, Bruce might look at it and say, that conflicts with this. Can we, it becomes a give and a take and a windowing of like making sure that you're not stepping on someone else's license. But at the end of the day, and again, I can't speak completely for Bruce, but if his artist is going to be paid appropriately for the use that's being done, and it's going to help that artist actually grow, and possibly maybe it becomes also an information share of like, hey, during that artist event, we're going to share with you the list of the 10,000 people who bought a ticket so you can now communicate with them directly.
Yeah.
I think we can probably work out something where everybody is compensated appropriately.
Yeah. And if you're going to fire up the cameras, make sure that your key artists are on board. I know a lot of major streaming companies that have spent a lot of money, and they were still backstage asking Kendall Kumar to sign the paperwork before he took the stage. So if you're going to say, hey, stream us live, make sure you got some of your marquee artists on board.
Yeah, think about leverage. Like, negotiations happen best well in advance, not after you've already done it and it's too late.
Any other experiences from other panelists when it comes to live streaming events?
I mean, I got a lot of experience with it, but we talked about it before. I mean, there's probably, I know I see some talent buyers and promoters out there. It's just got to be seamless for a promoter. When we were talking about it earlier, we were saying, you know, I think the hardest thing for a talent buyer, especially buying for 1,000, 2,000 cap venues, is they don't want to have to deal with anything more than cutting the deal with an agent or manager and moving on. So if the streaming service is in between and they can handle, as you brought up, all the licensing and the contract and making sure that the headliner's on board, then we're down for it. But I know for our company, it was always very difficult I'm trying to onboard my own buyers to say, look, they're going to handle everything. They're going to put the cameras in. They're going to make the system. They're going to do all this. And it was always just an epic lift to make it work, and we'd always test it somewhere. So I've had an up and down experience with it, and that's just been when it goes right, like on festivals, for example. I mean, I dig when I'm sitting back and I can click on it, but I'm getting old and lazy where I can watch Coachella from my couch. That for me has been the hard, both good and bad side of it.
One thing to keep in mind is the managers don't necessarily, or the artists, don't necessarily have the unilateral right to say, yes, you can film this and then rebroadcast it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's you know, you sold your rights to a label or a publishing company, and they then own it. And so what we did at Insomniac, because we would live stream everything, and by the way, everything's sampled, is we would actually put the onus on the agent. So like, if you accept our offer for X thousands or millions of dollars, like, it's not, you've got to provide us with the clearances from your record company and your publisher so we can stream you. Otherwise, we're going to rescind our offer. So it's complicated in the streaming world with rights management. Again, live, you can get away with almost anything.
I was going to say, just to add, because I know that we do have film festival people in the room too. You know, part of what we had to look at was oftentimes a film's been broken up into one of the 200 territories, so we had to look at where can you broadcast. Like, we had to geo-block out certain countries. In certain cases, like the Jewish film festivals, where there might be one that's 30 miles down the road, we actually would geo-fence sometimes within targets of 20 miles around the physical theater so that we didn't step on their license to the next festival. Sometimes we worked with limiting, even though it's a virtual space and theoretically there is no, you know, it's not like you can sell out the room. We limited it certain things to either a certain number of tickets or only to like patron passes above $5,000. You know, there's all sorts of creative ways to make it work, but in that case, like film, much like music, we had to satisfy, you know, the filmmaker, distributors, possible promoters. Like, there was a lot of people involved that you had to be on track with making sure that you're not creating a copyright infringement.
Some great feedback there. Thank you, Benjamin. I just wanted to speak to the audience for a second. We're going to take your questions in just a little bit. So whatever questions you have, just hold them for now, and we'll make sure to get them in so you get your money's worth out of this amazing panel today.
Wait.
Yep.
They paid to be here?
Did you all pay to be here?
I need to talk to somebody. I'm not getting paid.
Morgan, I'd like to ask you, in terms of market share across venues, what's your approach to targeting spaces in geographical areas that aren't dominated by the majors, i.e. AEG, Live Nation? And what sort of challenges are you working through currently, and what do you foresee through the next decade?
Wow.
Loaded question.
I could answer 20 years ago. I could answer that question very specifically. Crime of opportunity. So our company's just, it's strange now. I mean, we started as a New York-based music company, moved to LA, and now we're in places like Boise, Idaho, Spokane, Washington, Missoula, Montana, and when we got into those parts of the country, we were very specific into how we wanted to route. You know, we were sort of a tertiary market, what the gas stop is, where we would connect all the dots, how we would tie it all together. I'm still, as a promoter, we are still always looking for secondary and tertiary markets that haven't been attacked by the majors. No offense to Live Nation AG, but I'm battling with them in every single market I go in. It's very rare at this point that I'm going into some market that they're not already in, or if a market that we have planted our flag in that they're not coming into. So, for example, Boise, I'm competing with Live Nation and AG, and I'm like, how am I, you know, I got 5 venues and amphitheaters and all that. So I think that, you know, the key for us right now is we try to shore up the markets we're already in. So how do you take it from 100 to 500 to 1,000 to 4,000 to the amphitheater level? And that's really what I'm paying attention to in terms of my market grabs. And when I joked and said crime of opportunity, we do, when somebody, a lot of times now somebody's coming to us and saying, hey, how do you feel about putting a venue in Albuquerque? I mean, that's more secondary. And we'll take a look at it and we'll base it on the population, the routing, you know, 100,000 factors, cost of living, venue, and we'll look at it and go, okay, is it really where we're going to park our flag and put our time? But we're looking at everything. You know, what's the quality? And I also am very conscious as an independent of not going into another market and going head to head with somebody else at the same cap as me. Like, I'm going to use Albuquerque as an example. Anybody from Albuquerque here? There may be some people, maybe not.
New Mexico in house?
Well, then maybe I should go into that market. No, but you know, 10 years ago we looked hard at it, and then we kind of pulled back a bit. COVID hit, and we backed away. And now there's multiple venues, 1,000, 2,000. Now I sort of back away and go, I'm not gonna go fight that fight right now. I might look somewhere else, but I'm not gonna spit that all out in case I have people here that'll. So I gave you a wide open answer. You know, it's many things that go into that.
Thanks, Morgan. All right, y'all. I'm going to pull out my Phil Donahue, and it's a little kind of of a certain age little reference there. But we have any questions in the house? Raise your hand. Let me get your name and where you're from.
Abaya from Marina Del Rey.
And who's your question directed at?
I wanted to ask Bruce, maybe 10, 15 years ago, U2 was in that controversy about paying the concert music rights. Do you remember that?
The band U2?
Yeah. They, you know, because, like, for example...
I remember they gave me their record on my phone, which wasn't very
Before
nice.
that.
Okay.
So, for example, in South America, when we promote concerts, we have to pay, like, a gross to ASCAP, you know, like sometimes 8, 10%. And they were fighting that, which kind of then disappeared. I don't know what happened. I don't know if you're aware of it or what the status is of bands. Are they still, like, are you recommending to your bands to sign up with ASCAP and BMI and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if I'm fully qualified to answer the question. Janine, do you know what he's talking about?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe he's talking about maybe you got a Irving company early on where they can negotiate. I don't know.
Well, the only thing I can tell you is that we're all going to sign up for one of those, and then more and more, believe it or not, I'm actually having my bands, especially on the smaller side, submit the set list so that they can get the pennies that are paid. It's something we don't think about, the bands don't think about, but you do a 50-date tour and it adds up. Where in Marina Del Rey are you?
Spree?
I used to live in that building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was in Tower 2, 23, 24.
All right, you guys can take this offline.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
worry,
awesome.
he's not a plant,
The
okay,
pool
guys?
scene is awesome at that building. Yeah, I know that building.
No, but hey, just really quick, you're talking about performing rights. And to be clear, if you're a restaurant, bar, festival owner, you have to pay this stuff. It's the law, right? You cannot exploit somebody's music. We can't turn, if music comes on right now, either the hotel's paying for it or Lori Kirby's paying for it.
Yeah,
One of the two
I
people.
think the issue that U2 was having was when they did the numbers, they were literally getting pennies to the dollar, you know? So that was the issue back then, and you know, I was just curious to see.
Whatever it was, I think it worked out for you too. I think they got it.
They
sorted.
got no problems.
Yeah.
Questions? Thank you. Get your name and where you're from.
Sawyer Whalen. I'm with Shebang Music Festival.
Yeah, baby.
I had a question on the production side of things. So kind of as you grow your event from, you know, potentially a small event to kind of a mid-size or larger event, you know, you obviously develop different relationships with vendors and partners on production stuff. As you scale it up, how do you manage those relationships as you grow when you might be outgrowing some of those partners' capabilities? Does that make sense? I guess, and the other thing to add to that is, like, especially if you're doing, I guess, like other events outside of maybe just the festival, where you might be leveraging those partners more than you would, you know, someone bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you start, you know, you're going with smaller vendors, smaller stages, everything's easier. You're looking at, and actually, as the bigger you get, the harder it gets. You know, suddenly you're getting these riders where they're asking for a SAM that you never thought you'd have to pay for. So I mean, depending on where you are and what state, you know, like California is a very easy vendor city in finding the company that might have had staging for you before, and now they're probably going to have the next stage up that you could get. It's hard to answer that specific on, because it really depends on your cost structure of the festival at that point and how big you want to get. You know, I've found sometimes that I was happier when we were sitting at 5,000 than I am now at 25,000. My margins were better. I was more intimate with the vendors. It was easier to have access to them. My deposits were easier. So, I mean, I think growth is, I mean, we're all different. I like to start small, test it out, and then move it up. So I think you just got to do due diligence and have the right people on. I mean, vendors are really important, and you got to make sure you pay them. You know, I know that's so obvious, but.
Thank you.
Here's vendor.
Yeah.
I want to put her in. Vendor. You don't want to answer that?
No, I don't.
No, but I mean, for real, like, maybe also I think there's, you know, look, we all got to bring each other up, right? You guys are young guys starting something. That's great. You know, find some young vendors and help build their business, right? Build it together. Like, if we're not replenishing the pipeline, right, Bruce? I mean, then what do we have? You know, we run out of shit. And that's not good for anything. So empower people that are good, that are trustworthy. All you have in this business, I don't care if it's film, whatever, all you have is your reputation and your word. And, you know, find good people and grow together. That would be my 2 cents.
That's great advice. Thank you. Question? There we go. Right over here. Name where you're from, please.
Joe Williams, have a small festival in High Point, North Carolina, Coltrane Jazz and Blues Festival. We're now growing in our 13th year, so now general liability becomes an issue, where when we first started, it was very, you know, it's insignificant amount. So now these things are doubling and tripling, and event, you know, can you address that?
I can't, no.
I mean,
But Mark can.
are you in a place where I mean, the biggest problem right now is like a storm coming in, and so getting disaster insurance has become disastrous. It's become almost impossible, right? So you talk to like a big festival producer like Danny Wimmer, who crushes it. His biggest fear is a massive storm coming in, and he's not insured because he can't get the insurance.
Well, everything has changed. Even artist riders are now doubling their required liabilities, and you know, so that number is doubling.
Yeah, sure it is. But I mean, you can find insurance for an artist rider. Can you find an insurance for a tornado? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that one very specifically I want to answer, because I can speak to living it with cancellation insurance, because it's ridiculous, right? The cost of it, GL is ridiculous, active shooter insurance, it's all insane. Years ago with cancellation, we didn't pull it in one of our festivals, and I was standing there with my promoter partner, I thought, oh, it's never going to storm in Southern California. We'll get through this one, and we had one of the worst storm days ever and had to evac, and it was the hardest 50 grand that I ever didn't spend. So I can only say I feel you, but now every single year, whether it's, and by the way, for all you promoters who are not so new, but stop saying festival. Like, you want these guys to pay, you want to overpay for something, say festival. Say you're going to do an outdoor event.
Thanks for your question, Joe.
Don't say, but really, I mean, we do a lot of outdoor shows in like Montana. We got to pull, I mean, that's weather, lightning. I mean, so I don't have an answer for you. It's just getting harder and harder.
Well, one thing I can add just from a kind of a creative financing point of view is I've worked with a lot of organizations that had small budgets. And when things like that happen that were out of the extraordinary or out of the ordinary, is you can turn that potentially into a sponsorship level event. Like you can go out there and try to find someone who's willing to put up the money to buy your insurance. You can also, like if you have donors, like we've worked with groups where we went and we presented of like to the donors and somebody stepped up and said, look, sure, I'll put up the extra $50,000 or whatever because they have a reason to care. And so you don't just have to eat it. You may have to, but you can also try to see if you can get some other organization or group to cover the cost of that change.
Thanks for your question, Joe. We've got 5 minutes left. We're going to squeeze in a couple more questions here. Hello. Name and where you're from, please.
Joy from Los Angeles. I have a question about promotion. So I noticed a trend that whenever festivals, they release the flyer, all of the artists at the same time, they all like post a flyer, which I think is really cool. But I do smaller events and I have a hard time like the openers are all cool, they want to promote, but the headlines, they hardly ever want to promote and post. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can, because I feel you on both sides. As somebody who's involved in festivals, I need those videos, and someone who's asking my artists to make them, I'm the manager saying, where's the goddamn video? Again, going back to the expectations of what you're buying, just bake it into the deal. You want 3 posts, 1 on sale, 1 right in the middle, and 1 3 days before. That's what you want. And if you don't get it, you're going to penalize the artist because you're giving them an opportunity to perform in front of your audience. The least they can do is hold an iPhone up to their face.
One follow-up. What kind of penalty? Because they don't do it. And
Take
it's
money
in the
away.
contract.
Trust me. If you're gonna penalize an artist, hit them in the pocketbook.
Okay.
You're asking for them to be a marketing partner. And can I just add real quick? I know we got another question. Is that just for me personally? I've never been to this festival, and when I was driving up here, I was looking at all the attendees, and I got very encouraged on the amount of festivals that are represented in this room that I was not aware of. For me, as a manager of many, many artists, that's encouraging. It's not always about Coachella. It's not always about Outside Lands. Those are great. Those are, unicorn events. The rest of us are out there actually doing the work, breaking bands and giving that consumer an exciting experience. I want to know about those. So whatever you're doing, make sure you get on the radar beyond the agents. The agents are great, they're important, but they're checking boxes. The manager is the person that's going to say yes, because they are the person closest to the artist. So make sure your management relationships are solid.
You're gonna get 2 comments from an agent every single time. I need more money and better billing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to make that statement. I also love the sound of my own voice.
I love it too. It's great. My name is Holly with Amped Up. That was an awesome question, by the way. I really appreciated hearing that. I wanted to hear what kind of technology you're using to unify teams. Like, what are you seeing as standard? Because what I keep seeing with a lot of festivals is tons of back and forth emails, hours and hours wasted, where people are like copied on emails they don't need to be on. Everybody's using spreadsheets and Google Docs and Google Calendar. Is there a system that you're seeing emerge that people are using? How do you unify your teams and make sure that things don't get lost and you're not wasting hours in the back and forth?
Well, I'll just say I mainly work for Golden Voice, and we use smart sheets. And everyone's on it, but we do have difficulties of everyone being on different avenues, and smart sheets is working great for all of us.
There is a technology out there, and this isn't so much on the internal communication side as much as the offer sheet settlement side. There's a company called Prism. I'm sure you're familiar with these guys. They're kind of standardizing this and empowering everybody. and everybody's using it. Live Nation has their own proprietary thing called Roam. The big guys kind of have their own, but it's basically the same thing. It's templatizing the process, right? So anybody, you're starting a festival, you can go on Prism, and there's the sheet. You fill in the blanks, you shoot it off, and it's standardized, and that will help communication. I know that's not the internal problem, but yeah. Prism, PR. I'll have equity like later today, but yeah, Prism.
All right, we have time for one more question.
You got a question in the back.
Name and where you're from, please.
Hi there. My name's Noah. I work for Stern Grove up in San Francisco, the largest or the longest running nonprofit music festival in the country. I know there's a couple of sessions about social impact later on this weekend, but wanted to kind of chat from the manager, from the agent side of view about, the cost of artists. And, our festival's completely free. We pretty much guarantee around an audience of 9,000 to 10,000 people each week. And we're still struggling to, pay artists what they want to be paid while still trying to guarantee arts access. I see John rolling his eyes. Would love to maybe hear that.
I'm happy to have anybody play your festival for free. I'll send you to my friend.
No,
I
listen,
love your festival.
I'm rolling my eyes because this is a supply chain problem. This isn't a your problem. This is just everybody. Look, man, I mean, unfortunately, this is, there's just a lot of horrors in the system. And everybody wants more and more and more and more, and they don't give a fuck, right? So festivals are an easy squeeze. Listen, if you do it based on a hard ticket, the math is simple, right? What's your ticket gross? You're going to get, 90% of that after expenses max. It's math. Festivals, it's not. It's arbitrary. So, you know what? You know your power is? Say no.
Just say no.
Did you have a question in the back before we end?
So with our promoters, we'll invite them in to it and start a project, and then you can upload everything. So ad mats, everything all in one spot with 37 signals. And they call it Basecamp.
We used Basecamp as well. I didn't get, it was good.
So we like Basecamp.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just about out of time. I want to thank our esteemed panelists today. Let's hear it for them. One more round of applause. Thank you, thank you. And I'd also like to say, I'm sure it's a very intimate vibe here. We're all feeling it. It's a beautiful oasis here. If you have a follow-up question, didn't have a chance to get it in, or you think about something later, I'm sure which one of our panelists here would be.
Hey, also, congrats to Lori Kirby for pulling this off. Like, what a force of nature that woman is. Lori Kirby, damn.
Lori Kirby and her fantastic team, thank you so much. And the Mar Monte Hotel, isn't this place gorgeous or what? All right. We'll see you all at all the panels, featured panelists and guests, and have a great time tonight at the party. See you all. Thank you.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've got about 10 minutes before the next panel starts up. This would be a great time to go get a bathroom break. You can catch up with the panelists from the last panel out in the lobby. We've got pedicab rides, we have drink stations, we have the Calm Bar upstairs, but the diversity and inclusion panel will start in about 10 minutes. Upstairs.